Hi, I'm Nancy Ellen Thompson, and I'm just going to do a little tiny demo here. I'd hoped to get another one out sooner than this, but I found this neat, I think it's called a cyclamen, hanging on a wall when I was in Italy, and this just brought back good memories, and I thought this would be a fast little thing to do. You could put any flowers in here you want, but I'm going to show you what I've done. I've got a little sketch here. I'm going to darken it up so you can see it better. But always before I start a painting, I do a little sketch. And I think it's kind of nice to have a border on your sketch so you know kind of where you're going. I put in these wonderful little flowers, and they give me good memories because it was one of my mother's favorite flowers. And I could make them any color I want. You can put geraniums up there and make the pot bigger and move it down. But as I was working with it, I loved the fact that there was a good shadow here. But the shadow is boring and stubby and all one color in the photograph, and that's one of the things we have to avoid. So I'm going to quickly put this in and get some interesting little marks here, because basically this is not a drawing. It is a sketch. All I want to do is to figure out how I want to put this on my watercolor paper. And here's my little 22. And this actually came from a much larger photograph, and I cropped it down because this was what my center of interest was going to be. The larger photograph was the side of a wall, and it was just too much. And so you're the artist. You can sketch, you can figure out what you want. Now I'm going to move it over to this. And as I did my sketch, I realized I had put the shadow here and going towards the side and down this way. And I still could do that. And then I thought, well, maybe what if I had the shadow going this way and the light coming from up here? And that's kind of what I've drawn. So let's just see what happens. I have my light coming. I like to put a little arrow there so I can remember. This is just a color study. This is not an actual painting. Again, it's almost like a color sketch, but we're going to have a little bit of fun with it and see what happens. I've got my paints over here, and I like to use a pretty limited palette. I'm going to start with my center of interest this time. A lot of times I'll start with the background, but I think I'm going to wait till the end on that and see how much background I need. I'm going to use a little bit of permanent rose. Oh, I love that color. It's just so pretty. I'm using a number 14, Low Cornell 7020. And I just want to put in some really pretty pink flowers. As you can see in the photograph, and I try to keep all my reference material near me. I hope it's not getting out of the video, but I like to be able to see where I'm going with this. And I have changed the shadows, so I'm going to just put these in with as brief strokes as possible. Don't get in there and go around every little piece like that. No, get in there, get loose, have fun with it. Make marks that look like petals. Right now, it could be any wonderful flower. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to come in here. Let's put a couple more over here. 4 minutes. And then last but not least, I'm going to put one right down here in the center. Trying to let my brush do the work. So here we go. Okay, now I don't like everything all one color. So, put my paper towel up here. Let's put a little bit of shadow in there, and I'm going to use cobalt blue for my shadow. And as you know, that's going to make a wonderful purple. But I just love to put it in here and there and let it down at the bottom, especially because those are not in as much light. And let's pick up a little bit of this and pull around and connect, a few things here Let's see how this goes. And I'm going to take a little bit of, I think this is lemon yellow. I don't usually use anything that's quite this opaque, but I thought it might look pretty on here. Now, while that's still wet, I'm going to keep on going. I've got a good thing going here. So I'm going to use a little bit of New Gamboge. I use Old Winsor Newton professional paints for the most part. Every once in a while I'll get a Holbein or just a fun color that I really like. But this is going to be my green. And this time I'm going to use a very pale green first. And that was cerulean and New Gamboge. And I'm just going to paint in these flowers. Now, in watercolor, you go from light to dark. And so I'm going to put all the light stuff in. I'm going to let a little of that pink run into my leaves. That's okay. It won't hurt a thing. It'll, in fact, make the painting a little bit more unified. I guess that's the word I want to use. And let's pull some of these down here and here and here. Get a little bit of this going. And this is not going to be the end. This is just like your first run through. I want to get some color on the page. I want to get some, I'm not doing everything exact. I'm just putting the flowers and the leaves where I think they need to be for my design, for my plan more than anything. Maybe pull another one down in here. You know, just to, like the side of one, maybe it's turned. Didn't want them all exactly the same, although they are getting a little that way. Okay. And then we're going to go to the terracotta pot. Let's keep it simple. Let's use raw sienna and a little bit of this permanent rose that I've already got out here. And let's just make a cheery, really happy looking raw sienna to begin with. I can always darken it. I'm staying away from the leaf there because I'm not really sure that I want it to run into the pot. Later on I can correct that. But it is. Let me see. I would like to prop my board up a little bit. That's one thing I didn't do. Let me just lay this under here. I like to keep my board propped so I can tell where the paint is and where the water is, and that way I can control it a little better instead of having it control me. Okay, so we're staying away from that, but I do see some of the stuff is run and it's not bothering me a bit. I'm just trying to get a really happy looking little pot. I sound like Bob Ross with his happy little trees. I'll have a happy little pot here. Now, on terracotta, remember my light's coming this way. There's going to be some shadows down in here from these leaves, which are really turning pretty because it's running. And so later on, I'll put them in when it's dry. But while it's wet, I like to use a little bit of a shadow color on this using cobalt blue. It just does a nice job putting in the color while it's still wet. Now dry your brush off if you have to control it, pick anything up. See, I can just come right back in here and there we go. And that gives a nice, pretty kind of grayish shadow without being too harsh. I don't like you to use gray or to use like Payne's gray or something like that. I like to mix my grays. They're more vibrant. They're more fun. Over here, I'm going to do the little 22. It was the number for the house. I don't know that I needed it. Later on, I might just crop this out and just keep this much of the picture. But I'm playing now. This is a color study, and I'm trying to figure out what I would do if I did a really nice big painting. This is my favorite part, though. So, I'm going to just put a little bit of a pinkish wash over this to begin with. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to add a little bit of a raw sienna. Raw sienna is a great yellow when you want things a little bit more natural. I use raw sienna for sunsets. I never use the new gamboge or the lemon yellows or any of that for sunsets, although they appear that way to us. Went in the wrong one. That's not what you want to paint with. It becomes too garish a lot of times. So I'm gonna just put a little bit of color here and there. Grab a little bit of orange that I made for the terracotta. And here we go. I think I'll make those numbers blue, but that means I'm gonna have to add some blue in here somewhere. Okay. Now, while this is drying, I'm still gonna go ahead and put in, because this is, like I said, a first go through. We'll do another one later when I take it to the next step. But right now I'm just gonna get a little wall color on here. And I'm gonna start with raw sienna, very light, and we use water for our white. So I'm just gonna put it here and there in the painting. On the paper, this is Arches 140 cold press. I'm just putting this in, not worrying about the shadow right now, not really worrying whether the flowers run. And the further I get away from my subject, the later I'm getting, which means I'm using more water. So let's get up under here, grab some of this. And last but not least, we'll put a little bit up top. And here we go. And you notice I'm not trying to pull it and stretch it. I'm just going in here and having fun with it and letting it run and touching in a couple places. I'll come back in later and make things way more defined. But right now, this is my first run through. So I hope you have fun with this. I'll add a tiny bit of shadow under here while it's still wet, but I'm not ready to do shadow yet. I just want a little softness under here to see what happens and give the feeling. And a little bit out here, and there'll be more everywhere later, and it'll be way more defined. But this is just a good start. Get busy, just do something, just get it started, and later on we'll do another one where we finish it. Thanks so much. And I'm Nancy Ellen Thompson. You can look on my Facebook and on my website, and I'll be glad to get in contact with you. So just like our page, Nancy Ellen Thompson Studio and Gallery. Thank you. How's it look?
13 and a half minutes.
Mm-hmm.